Hello and welcome to the actual episode 259 of the Random Nintendo podcast. If you've listened to our last Random Nintendo, you'll know why I say that. And if you haven't, well, you should. Did
I hear that right?
I was about to comment on that too. Non-Nintendo.
Yeah, well,
I like
you know
that.
what? It's another name change, guys. Surprise! It's the third name for our not Nintendo podcast. No, Random Nintendo. But yeah, if you didn't listen,
we were about to hit 260 also. So now we're going to be Random Nintendo episode 1.
Yep. Sorry, guys. Well, no, that was QC, not us, not Random Nintendo.
No,
so that would be now going from 27 back to 1. Yeah. But anyway, the point is, if you didn't listen, if you didn't listen, go listen. That joke will make sense. Otherwise, hi, I'm Jason.
Yep, you are.
Okay.
Yeah, he is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone else here? No names. All right.
I mean, physically,
Angel. He's Kevin. Kevin's physically here. Angel, where are you? Physical.
I feel like I've done that joke before. I'm not too sure.
Actually, I don't think you have. Believe it or not.
Pretty sure I have.
I mean, after almost
Broken record.
I don't know, 300 episodes total, I'm sure that joke has been done at least once.
And that's Angel.
But, yeah.
But yeah, this episode is our first normal Random Nintendo, not non-Nintendo, not any other thing, since the big reveal of the Switch Pro that isn't so pro. It's just OLED. And you better believe we're going to talk about it. And really, it boils down to the question of, like, is a bigger size enough? So we're calling this episode, Does Size Matter?
Yeah, we are.
But there is more.
Double the memory.
Yeah, does size matter? It's really a question that fits for a lot of topics to talk about this episode, because there's a $2,000 Mario watch that was announced, and it's pretty big on your wrist, and, like, doesn't matter. There's somehow, Angel, you were able to tie in this next topic. There's a Nickelodeon version of Smash Bros. Coming out we're going to be talking about. I don't know how size matters with that, but you said it did, so you can enlighten us now or later if you wish.
I think it makes more sense later.
Okay.
Then we might as well just start talking about it at this point.
Right, yeah, then we'll wait. And also, besides that stuff that doesn't even make sense with that title, I'm going to be sharing some impressions of Fuser, the DJ game Fuser, that I spent some time with, messing around with. And we are
kind of makes sense with the last game in the bottom of the outline, I guess.
With Metroid?
Is it the multi-platform? If you look at the outline,
Fuser?
The timestamp, below Fuser.
What, did you add something in secret?
I didn't.
Oh. And we want to read that out loud? Or is it an inside joke for just us?
I mean, do you want to read it out loud?
I'm good.
I mean, we might have to age-gate that episode if we say it.
Yeah, no, we'll leave that out. We're already borderline with Does Size Matter. That's further. Anyway, yeah, the other thing
worse
about
with the
besides all
other one
that.
we almost went with.
That's true. We have definitely done worse. But we're also bringing back our kind of when we feel like it segment, the anniversary series where we reflect on various games that are getting old this year, and this time it's Metroid's turn. So that will be closing out the show. What this episode will not have, however, to be upfront about it, is any real late-breaking news because, full disclosure, we're actually recording this a few days earlier than usual. So if Nintendo makes some wild announcement, like, I don't know, Shadow dropping Mother 3 or something in the eShop, it's not that we don't have anything to say, it's that we didn't know it happened, because it hasn't happened.
Something like that would happen,
You're
though.
listening to the future.
Where they just
right?
I really hope
drop
it happens.
Mother 3.
Like, just
Like
the one
they
time we
do or
record
something.
early. Yeah. Well, is
I hope
that
they
even
drop
wild
something
enough?
that Jason would really care and would really want to talk about. That's gonna like kill them to not have to.
Well,
have to
we're
wait,
missing
like, another 2
MPD
weeks.
numbers. Those come out after we record, so congrats, guys, you get a break.
Nice, we got a month.
But no, I mean,
a month away from
it
numbers.
would have to be real. It would really have to be wild for me to like actually like be like, oh my god, because we can always talk about it next time. But like something like I don't even know, like Nintendo divesting from video games to get back into their true passion of love hotels, or like something like that scale where it'd be like, I can't believe we missed that. Like the rest we'll get to, revealing that like Miyamoto actually didn't create the games, he's just the face, like kind of how Milli Vanilli lip sync their songs, like something of that caliber would be like, oh man, how do we not cover that? But those aren't going to happen, I would hope, assume, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, how are you guys doing in general? How's life? Usually we talk about what we're playing, but I don't think we have much outside of Fuser. So is there anything going on in your gaming world before we get to the news?
What better game than the game of life that we're playing?
And we only have a
And are you
limited
winning?
amount of time
Are you
on
winning
this
at it?
life, so...
Yeah. Are you making the most of it, Kevin?
Absolutely not. I can do way better. I'm just too lazy to do better.
I feel like on some level, asking
are you
that question
happy?
on a Nintendo podcast answers it in and of itself. You know, like
Well,
we're saying,
we're choosing to do this. So, I mean, I like to think that you're making the most of your life if you're doing things you enjoy.
that's a very good answer.
You don't necessarily have to, be living out your full potential, because I mean that is essentially limitless for anybody. Like anybody has the potential to do anything, and you could just think yourself into a corner and get depressed over like, oh, I could have done this if I had stuck to that, or if I had just taken this course instead, or blah blah blah. But if you're happy now, then you're living it up.
What a great uplifting thought to have instead of what we're playing. We do have what we're playing, to be fair. Fuser, I'll do later in the show, because like the Switch OLED happened. I mean, that seems a bit bigger than Fuser. So I feel like we could kind of go old school around Nintendo here and do the news first, like we used to do pre-pandemic, and then do our Metroid retrospective, and then wrap it up with, or maybe we do Fuser before Metroid. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But we're going to start with the news for once, because why not? So here we go. The Switch OLED model, the Nintendo Switch OLED model. It was early in the morning after kind of a long holiday weekend when, out of nowhere, Nintendo put an end to months, if not years, of speculation about what would come next for a Switch. And it turns out all the reports and the rumors were literally half correct. Yes, we're getting a 7-inch OLED screen Switch. Yes, it comes with a better kickstand. It even has improved speakers, although what that means remains to be seen. And it has double the internal storage, 64 instead of 32, like I think, Angel, you were saying earlier. And the battery life is that of the more recent model, not that of the OG launch model, so it's a little better. And it even has an Ethernet port in its dock. So far, so good, right? But that's where it stops. No 4K when in TV mode, no 1080p in handheld mode to better flex that vibrant OLED screen, no Bluetooth audio support, which is something that they never said was going to happen, but just like I think we all wanted. So what we're looking at essentially is Nintendo sort of half-stepping into every area that people hope to see improvement, which I don't say is a judgment. It's just strictly like a reference point of kind of the iterative nature of this update and what people were expecting and what the reality was. But before we get into the potential whys and hows of Nintendo's move here, I feel like we should do a quick read of our temperatures. Where do you two stand on this thing, on the OLED Switch? Like, just as is, what do you think of it? Are you getting it? What was your reaction when you saw that reveal?
I mean, you go first.
I mean, it's weird. I think that's how I just take it. I just found it incredibly weird. But then after reading a lot of takes on Twitter, it was like, oh, this makes sense that Nintendo would go this route instead of just an entire Pro. Personally, I'm sure you're going to ask at some point, no, I'm not going to buy it because whatever upgrades there aren't enough for me to justify dropping another $350 on the Switch.
Yeah, that's fair because it's literally just a slightly bigger screen. I mean, Angel, you're more of a TV man than a handheld man, right?
Yeah, I would say my Switch is 99% of the time in docked mode, and the only time it isn't is I think when we go to Comic-Con. And even then, I would try to bring the dock, or if we go to a trip somewhere, but yeah, it's better battery, doesn't matter. Bigger, more storage. I already have a 256 gig SD card. Better stand, doesn't matter. Better screen, doesn't matter. None of it matters.
Fair. Better speakers do something we don't know, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. On top of the fact that, Ethernet port in the stock, doesn't matter because I already had gotten the adapter. And,
yeah, we should just call this episode Doesn't Matter. It's like the word of the day, phrase of the day.
And I mean, in a world where I didn't buy a Switch, I would think just at face value, whether I'm getting it, no, because it doesn't matter. But I don't know, it looks cool. I mean, the screen looks nice. It looks like a nice upgrade for people that actually use the Switch. Mm-hmm. About 50-50 screen, I mean, handheld and docked. But unfortunately, I'm just not one of those. And I also just got it repaired from Nintendo and the 3-4 day turnaround that I mentioned before. So, yeah, I was hoping for a substantial... Well, I was just hoping for anything. I wasn't even expecting them to do any kind of upgrade. I never bought into these rumors. As far as I'm concerned, they're all fake until Nintendo says something. So, until then, it's just speculation. But, Yeah, so when they did announce something, my first thought was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe there is something to this. And I was like, oh, man. I kind of wanted to spend money, but maybe it's for the best. There's other more expensive things that I'm looking at right now anyway.
Right. There's two things you said there that I was kind of like, oh, I want to ask you about that. So you said it looks very nice, and I agree it does. What do you guys make of that black and white color scheme? I'm torn. Like, do you think it looks good with the two-tone, or?
Yes, I am one of the few that
cool.
likes the dual tone of the PS5. So this being almost pretty much the same with the black and white.
Wow.
Yeah.
This would look really nice next to a PS5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even
I think
the
it looks
dock
nice.
having curved edges now, the new dock is very PS5.
Yeah, the new dock is actually like, I actually would buy the new dock just for the Ethernet port for sure.
Which you can do separately. They're selling them separately.
Yep, but
And they work
they
with dual
haven't
switch.
announced
Yeah.
the price.
Yeah,
on it, right?
because the first dock was
No, they
very readily available separately. I don't think I ever saw an OG dock in person. And when I was trying to get a second dock online, Nintendo's like website literally just redirected you to like a Nyko one or like some third party one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when you clicked on like purchase dock, it would just take you to like the tiny little one. I think it was a Hori one. Well, whatever third company they partnered with to make docks for them. But it's like, I want the Nintendo one. But it's like, nope, we just don't have any.
Yeah,
So,
they
not really.
I think underestimated how many people would want multiple docks in their home and be able to just plop the Switch at whatever TV they're near. Like, I really think when I remember when the Switch launched and docks for like a year were basically non-existent. And I do wonder on some level if the fact that they underestimated docks so much and then, a couple years later started talking up, we can have multiple Switches per household. I wonder if they're like, oh, hold on a sec, people will use this thing in multiple rooms. Maybe we can just get multiple people to buy them for multiple rooms in full. Like, I do wonder if there's a link there. Who knows? But it is kind of interesting how, like, one sort of led to the other or correlated versus causation. But, But yeah, the color scheme is, so where do you stand on, Angel? Do you like the two-tone, the white-black or whatever they're calling
It
it?
looks cool. I like it. I don't dislike it. It's just like, I like changing up the color every once in a while, so it just looks nice. But I am way too used to just like seeing like my like orange and purple, orange and blue, orange and any other color.
Yeah.
Ideally, I would also have another orange Joy-Con, so I could have orange and orange. But I just have to stick to it as a dream.
Yeah, I for me am weird in that. Well, you guys know this. I like things pretty bland. Mr. Vanilla over here. But, like, my up until my iPhone 12, all my phones are, like, dark gray or black. My laptop is always silver or gray. My Apple Watch is, like, the most minimal watch face on it. I bought the gray Switch. I haven't bought any colored Joy-Cons. So, when I saw the two-tone color, even though it was just black and white, like, it was still, a little more than just solid color. I don't know. It's kind of intense for me. What I really wish is that they let you pick which dock
Jesus
you get
Christ,
with the
dude.
system. No, it's not bad. It's just here's the situation. So I downstairs here.
Too intense.
It's too intense. I downstairs here have a setup where the entertainment center is white.
Did your girlfriend have to console you after you look?
Well,
at
no,
the
she
images?
agrees.
Like,
That's where it gets. That's the problem. We're two crazy peas in a pod here because she agrees. We have a white entertainment center and everything on top of it. The Switch, the Apple TV, this little candle holder thing she got, and our TV are all black, solid black, kind of minimalist. And it's are we gonna break the black with the white? Because now the dock is white.
I guess when looking at it from that angle, sure, but
yeah,
it's not
that's what I mean.
The black and white is exotic. It's
no. I just mean compared to my completely monotone top. Of
then sure, then that's a little bit more understandable. But no, the way you originally made it sound, it's oh man, it's too extreme.
Oh
This
no,
is
it's not
cool
I'm
guy
oh my god,
Switch.
panda bears are too intense for me. I can't look at a panda bear. Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, but what I would really honestly, to Angel, your point about getting all orange and everything. They have a Joy-Con Switch customizer tool thing on Nintendo.com where you can go and you pick your different Joy-Cons and they show you what they look like on your Switch and you can buy the Joy-Con separately. I don't know. I feel like as part of the pitch to make the OLED model stand out in some way, they could kind of have done what they did with the 3DS faceplates. It would have been cool if they took a cue from Xbox Design Studio or whatever and they let you buy your Joy-Cons, buy your dock because they are selling both black and white ones of the new design. Pick which version of the Switch you want, the original, the OLED, the Animal Crossing back, whatever, and then you could literally just compile your own bundle. That would be super cool, and really that would be kind of a thing that lets sort of ham up, oh, the Switch is, this is newest Switch. You can customize it in a way you couldn't before. Obviously, they're not going to do that.
Not that it's on the same scale,
really nice
but Xbox does let you. They have the Xbox controller design lab, where online you get to customize pretty much like every facet of the controller, and it's super cool.
Yeah, like I wish Nintendo would do that because they make such a point out of how customizable it can be. I gotta assume on some level they're not doing it because they don't want to put more attention on Joy-Cons and Joy-Con drift in a way. Because the first thing out of everyone's mouth when the OLED Switch was announced, all the media sent Nintendo, so, what's up with the Joy-Cons? Are they fixed? And Nintendo just kept saying no comment, no comment, no comment, which means they're not fixed. So I imagine if they like launched a Joy-Con studio where you can customize your Switch with any Joy-Con, that's just another piece of PR where they have to go out and be like, okay, yes, you could send in your Joy-Cons, but there's not really a problem, et cetera, et cetera. So I wouldn't be surprised if some weird way...
You get to choose whether you want drift on your Joy-Con or not.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want Joy-Con 1 or Joy-Con version 2? Yeah.
It saves you $10.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for $10, it takes a while for Joy-Con drift to get bad. So you could ride it out. I haven't repaired mine yet. You could ride it out for a while until you get Mario Golf. Then it's all downhill. But yeah. So that was one thing I wanted to mention because Angel, you mentioned it looked nice. The other thing you said was that you're kind of hoping it'd be more, and I think on some level, Kevin, you were saying it too. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a tinge disappointed when it was first revealed. Like, we can and will get into sort of the, expectation building from the media and how things went awry. But I just mean in terms like the ethos of like the Switch OLED itself. And it's really what you guys have already said. Like, this is a handheld-oriented console for a system that, already had a modified version for handheld play in the Switch Lite. Never mind the original Switch, also already, of course, having handheld play. And, to be fair, the Switch Lite is in the other direction. It's more durable, it's a smaller screen, it's cheaper components, it's the 2DS to the Switch's 3DS. Now the OLED model is here, and it turns out to just be the 3DS XL to the Switch's 3DS, a bigger screen, an ergonomic tweak. Here it's that kickstand, more screen real estate, same form factor, all that. So ultimately, and I guess unsurprising, given how we've observed this pattern multiple times this year, Nintendo's just pulling from their handheld legacy, right? Like, we saw it. I said it after the first Direct of the year with their lineup through June. I kept making the point that, they're carrying to handheld demographic first. Then E3 rolled around. We got 2D Metroid and WarioWare and Advance Wars. And again, I was like, oh yeah, they're carrying to the handheld crowd. And now, perhaps seeing the forest through the trees more clearly, they are catering in the exact same way, but now with hardware, which actually makes tons of sense. It's a very holistic strategy. It's one that, sure, I'll admit I misjudged when all the talk of the 4K Switch was floating about. But, so that, that's fine. If Nintendo wants to do a handheld-driven approach, so be it. But it's just maybe not the direction I expected the Switch to go in, per se. Not like from a business, like, oh, I'm analyzing Nintendo. Just personally what I thought the Switch would do. Like, I think in my mind, I always viewed TV mode and handheld mode as some sort of like equal footing in the system's design philosophy. So the idea of a Switch with a bigger screen for handheld, in my mind, would also mean it'd do a proportional bump in the experience for TV mode as well, which would basically be 4K. There's nothing else you could do because you don't own the TVs that people play it on. It's not like they're going to go to everyone's house and be like, oh, you have a 50-inch, you have a 55 now. And, it's kind of like, to me, like the sound situation. Like, they're going to acknowledge the speaker output could be better, and they're going to fix it with this new whatever the sound change is. So theoretically, you'd be like, all right, well, if the speakers are better, are they going to make the experience better when you can't use the speakers, when you need headphones? Like, well, they add Bluetooth. And it's like, nah, they're not going to do that. So it's like they're doing like halfway towards things. And again, it's all well within Nintendo's playbook, I think. Like, the GBA SP gained a backlit screen but lost a headphone jack. The DS went through 3 iterations, losing the GBA slot, yet gaining DSiWare. The 3DS went through, I think, 6 different systems, and they added and removed so many different things over time. At one point, the thing was literally a doorstop with a screen. Like, Nintendo's MO is to do exactly what they're doing here, where they, like, giveth and taketh away or half step in one direction. It's just, I don't know, the Switch I thought might be different. Like, maybe I bought into the idea that this was a console as much as a handheld, so I kind of believed that all this talk from Nintendo of a longer lifespan and the potential for more iterative updates, and then our speculation earlier this year about how that can maybe it's like the iPhone and they update it yearly or bi-yearly with small spec boosts or things like that. Like, in my mind, that would mean the full Switch experience would move forward in lockstep, not just like one play style over another, which is what the OLED Switch actually is. So initially I was kind of like a little bummed, but as I came to terms with kind of the reality of that situation. Man, I sound like I'm describing someone being murdered or like I'm at a funeral. As I came to terms with his death, I realized. But no, like it's not that dramatic, really. But as I kind of, where it's kind of going there is as I sort of took at face value what the Switch OLED is, I'm actually warming up to it a fair amount. And I admit I'm a bit of a Nintendo fanboy, no surprise there, so obviously I'm going to buy this thing regardless. But I mean, just in general, if you like go through the list and ignore all preconceived notions, ignore, you know, what you may expect from the TV side or whatever, like that screen is going to be a really nice upgrade. I am one of the people that is kind of a 50-50 split like we were talking about before. So, you know, having that more vibrant screen, a bigger screen does seem nice. And I think I'm also one of the few people that's actually going to really appreciate the kickstand. I don't know if anyone out there uses the kickstand. Do you guys ever use the kickstand? Do you ever do tabletop mode? Like ever?
As I said before, no.
Only
Have you
when
ever?
absolutely
Like at
have
all?
to. Yeah, we'll use
Oh.
the kickstand.
I used it once when like I think it came out, and I was just like,
Trying it.
So this is what this is.
Because yeah, I'm curious. Like, who out there actually like if you use tabletop mode at all? Comment on the episode at roundtail.com, comment on our YouTube video, tweet us at Round Nintendo, or like tweet me at JSR7. Like, tabletop fans, rise up here. Like, I want to know who's out there. Because like seriously, when I'm traveling or in like the earlier days of the pandemic, having tabletop mode was great. I mean, Mario Kart on airplanes with friends, Mario Party, you know, when snowed in at a hotel. For a while there, What the Golf, if you guys remember that game, which actually just got a bunch of new content on Switch like a week ago. Played that in a backyard a lot with tabletop. Like, it got that kickstand and its flimsiness got a surprising good amount of mileage on my Switch. And, you know, maybe I'm not like the rooftop parties with Karen in the original trailer where I'm like constantly doing it, but like I used it, and I think every single time I used it, there's at least one or two times that the thing would fall over and not be stable or whatever. So having that Microsoft Surface style full width adjustable kickstand is actually really nice. Like, I'm kind of excited for that, weirdly. But
I lost my kickstand.
I think what
in
really
Vegas.
warmed me. Oh yeah, they do pop off really easily. This one looks like it won't. This one looks really screwed in. Like, it looks.
No, yeah,
Probably
this
shake it like a
kickstand
kickstand.
looks like what Microsoft uses for their services, and I use Microsoft Surface at work, and those kickstands, pretty good. Or kick flap, whatever you want to call it.
I'm curious how Nintendo got around Microsoft's patent on that, because I'm pretty sure Microsoft patented that kickstand, and it looks identical. Like, even the logo placement on it looks the same. So I'm kind of wondering how that played out. But yeah, I think what actually warmed me up the most is a point that a friend of ours made during one of our game nights, Angel. He, like me, and I think both of you too, still has an original launch Switch. And the battery life on that is, you know, it's not great. I think the original Switch got 2.5 to 6 or 7 hours or something like that, with which you know is okay, but with the world kind of finding its footing again, at least where vaccinations are readily available, that's barely a transcontinental flight from LA to New York. It's certainly not an international one. It's not, you know, a road trip. It's not like there's something to be said if you're coming from an OG original version Switch to go the OLED and have your battery life go from 2.5 to 6 or 7 to 4.5 to 9. Like, that's percentage-wise, it's not a huge jump, but when you...
Like I said at the beginning of this conversation, bigger battery, doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying for me, like, that's what really warmed me up to it. Yeah. Like, there is something to be said. Like, I was really kind of down on this, and then as I was thinking about that, battery actually ended up being a big selling point, because, yeah, it... when you add the bigger screen, when you add the kickstand, when you add that weird speaker thing that I still don't understand, like, for handheld play, it's a pretty solid update. And it's, again, very comparable to the 3DS XL jump. Even the price difference. Everyone's like, oh, they're charging $50 more. Yeah, well, when they did 3DS to 3DS XL, they charged $30 more. So, and that was 170 to 200. So 300, 350
even taking that into
doesn't seem
consideration,
crazy.
like, I guess I just realized that, yeah, I guess like part of that 1-2% is I definitely did use my Switch a lot on an airplane. I think I used it when we went to Texas, but even then, like, I'm not gonna play Smash Bros. For 3 hours straight against like.
Yeah, I mean, no one's
I don't
gonna
know.
play straight the whole time. I
Yeah,
would
but even
assume,
then, like, but like the ones where I would use it, I don't remember. I guess we definitely did have the Switch when we went to Japan, but that was like obviously a super long flight. But I remember some of our flights had outlets, so even then, like, that wasn't really that big of an issue. And then most of the time, you know, you just kind of switch between devices.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's
So I don't know if
ways
you ever
around.
need. I mean, obviously, like, I'm not gonna say a battery life of like more than 3 hours is ever going to be used, because obviously people will. Like I know plenty of people, myself included, at least with 3DS. Like, I've owned pretty much like at least one of every Nintendo's handhelds, but I think most of the time I just played them at home, and I would play them, for as long as I would a gaming session that I would a console, but they're portable, which is kind of funny at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. Like, even when I said, I do half and half handheld console, like, I'd say 3/4 of that handheld play is just sitting on my couch. So, like, but just knowing you have the safety net of the bigger battery just seems nice. And again, it makes it, if you look at the spec sheet of the OLED Switch and you look at the spec sheet of the 3DS XL and you look at how they improve over their original models, like, it's kind of it's the exact playbook. Like, I was interested in the XL the second it got announced. So, like, I don't know why I had the hesitation except my misconception of what the Switch was in my mind.
That's because
versus what
you had
Nintendo
pre-expectations.
expected. A little, and it does kind of go back to that point, to your point, like the fact that they did decide, yes, we're favoring handheld, whether or not the rumors were true. The fact that they did very clearly say we are catering to the handheld situation, and I keep having that caveat of for a handheld it's great, but like handheld's only like half the Switch story. I don't know, or at least it was half the Switch pitch. Like to be fair, it is very possible that in the years it's been around, Nintendo has the data showing, and they probably do, which is why we're in this situation, showing, hey, most people play it primarily in handheld mode. I know back in 2017, I went and dug this out. Nintendo went on record that 20% of the people who play in TV mode do it for the majority of their gameplay. So I think they defined the majority as 80 or more % of the hours they play Switch. They are exclusively in TV mode. But then there were 30% of people with that same time frame reference who exclusively used handheld. So if that divide continued to expand, then obviously handheld first makes sense, which I'm sure, Angel, you kind of already alluded to, but I'm sure as I sit here justifying why it's only handheld, you're probably just sitting there like, well, yeah, the preconceived notion, like you were saying, that the 4K Switch wasn't a thing. It was, it was dumb. Why listen to Bloomberg? Everyone's the worst, all that stuff. Like, you were kind of going down that road at the end of Random Nintendo last week. But I imagine this sort of weird justification.
I just said, ain't it the truth?
But, like, do you think, like, are you basically, is your attitude Bloomberg was making stuff up, or is your attitude more like just people put too much weight on that?
I think people put way too much weight on that. Because, whether they are being, like, honest or not, whether, they have factual information, whether they're making it up just because, like, I think people are just putting way too much weight on it. It feels like a lot of the time they're staking their whole, like, Nintendo loyalty on whether these people that are reporting something that Nintendo hasn't even announced yet is true or not.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly...
Because they take it out on Nintendo, which is, like, dumb.
That I don't understand. Nintendo. That I do not understand. Is that like I I was explaining
Nintendo alone. No, yeah, I was like, just leave Nintendo alone.
Yeah, God, guys, leave Nintendo alone. No, but I don't understand. Like, I kind of walked through why I wanted something that also benefited the TV and what my expectations were. But like, Nintendo never said anything. They didn't even hype up this announcement. They even avoided E3 with this announcement to avoid the confusion or the kerfuffle or whatever you want to call it. Like, they just on a Tuesday after a holiday weekend just casually were like, here you go, a new Switch, surprise. Everything else was not them. So the way that people reacted and were like attacking Nintendo and calling out like their employees on Twitter, it made no sense.
I mean, people were so confident about like the day, the time, like why he's like, there was like, so much quote unquote evidence that they were going to announce it. When they tweeted out that picture of that penguin.
Yeah.
But
of Mochi. Yeah. And like even that was crazy. Like, people were like, oh, Nintendo's trolling, and I think I made a comment on Twitter that's sort of basically making fun of those people, like, oh, there's the Switch, there's the Switch Pro, Nintendo's a troll, and Nintendo's just like, here's some character art for a game that we're promoting because it's out in a month. Like, it was, it wasn't like the Chibi Robo on Fire one, where it was, 12 hours or so before they announced the Direct, they dropped that image. Some people read it as such, but still. But yeah, it's one of those things where there's smoke, there's not always fire. And I think what happened in this case is the fans ran with it. I know we speculated about it a ton on the show because that's just the news cycle. But the media in general, beyond just Bloomberg, really ran with it. Like, Bloomberg reported it, but then some started talking about it as facts, some started piling on things. Like, it became a lot bigger. And we did, like, I was going to this whole demographic dive last episode about it. Like, oh, well, they're doing it now because it means this and that. Next thing, I still believe that demographic's there, but, like, Nintendo obviously has data showing otherwise. And like, I honestly don't think Bloomberg got it wrong exactly. Like, their track record is pretty great from the original Switch to the Switch Lite to the revised battery model. And the specific reporter who does this stuff, Takashi Mochizuki, he's been on the Nintendo beat for years. He did the exact same stuff with the exact same scoops, all true, when he used to write for the Wall Street Journal in, like, the Wii era and the Wii U era. And, you know, even there, like, 4K was what everyone fixated on. It was only one little part of this whole report he did, this series of reports. And everything else was spot on. Everything. The OLED screen, the OLED supplier, the kickstand chain, like, it was all there. So it's just, you know, there's a reason I think that companies don't announce things until they're ready, right? Like, plans can change. Something like a current global chip shortage, for example, can occur.
I mean, that's literally, I mean, you hit the nail on the coffin. Like, they don't announce things until they're ready to be announced.
Yeah, and I think... But I think there's always going to be, like, this kind of, like, rumor mill, because, well, in the case of Bloomberg, they're talking to suppliers, they're letting their investors know what looks like happening in the market. But
yeah, it's no different than, like, when people find out about characters that were in production for Smash Brothers 64, Melee, or blah, blah, blah. Like, if the internet was around the way it is now back in N64 days, they would have figured out, like, oh, Bowser's coming to Smash 64. Oh, Wario's coming to Smash 64. Mm-hmm. But then, you know, those characters, they didn't make the deadline. They got canned. Bowser made it in later. Peach was also supposed to make it in the first one. They know that people would be like, oh, the roster's so small, man. It would have been cool if this was there. But, you know, that didn't happen, and people loved the first one.
Yeah, and I think hardware is especially difficult compared to software. Because, like, you know, they make multiple prototypes, obviously. There's not, like, one and done. And maybe at the last second, you know...
They obviously explored
this was
concept a long time ago, probably.
This 100% was a thing at one point. There was a 4K chip that Nintendo was toying with. There's no way that, like, Bloomberg just out of thin air found this chip that no one's used and was like, oh, we bet Nintendo's using it. Like, at some point, they were prototyping this thing. And the fact that that happened did not translate necessarily to that becomes reality. And maybe it was. Maybe it was very close to becoming reality. And then they looked at the chip shortage and went, we can't produce enough. Or they looked at the power management. Maybe, I know this has happened with Apple before. They make all sorts, like, they're notorious for doing this. Stuff gets leaked. You find out they have all these iPhones that, like, did all these things, but then something went wrong with the power management, something went wrong with the Face ID, and they just do the most, like, simplistic, conservative version. But the thing they did one time, I don't know if you guys remember, they did that 3-in-1 wireless charger where you could charge AirPods, iPhones, and Apple Watches all on one device. And you just plop them down wherever you want. They didn't have, like, pre-designated spots. They announced it. It was a big thing, and it just... Exactly. 2 years later, they canceled it, and no company wants egg on their face like that. So, like, I do think in Nintendo's case, like, for as much sense as this handheld approach makes in hindsight, it is very possible that the decision to do so, to lean on their legacy product patterns, was in part due to external factors. Like, one thing they very quickly confirmed with the Switch OLED, it's using the exact same GPU and the exact same CPU as the other models, which, again, that is the handheld strategy. It's what the 3DS XL did. But also, it allows Nintendo to pump these things out without running into the supply shortages with chips really at all, because they've had years to produce these components. They had not just, you know, full assembly lines going, but likely stockpiles, because they knew at the start of their fiscal year they were announcing, you know, they're going to sell 20-some-odd million Switches this year. So they have the components ready to go. They can sidestep everything and still pump out this new system. And, you know, if it's just a matter of swapping screens and casings, like, why wouldn't they take that opportunity to make people double dip for the screen? And then down the line, they can triple dip with, say, maybe the 4K Switch does become reality in the same way that they got someone like me suckered into buying a 3DS XL in 2013 and then a new 3DS XL with a slightly better chip in 2015. So, you know, it's Nintendo, that's kind of been Nintendo's secret weapon this whole time, right? Like, they have really kind of mastered the art of repackaging a product and reselling it to their core fans, and then the ripple effect that comes out of that. Like, lots of people trade in their systems or pass them to a younger relative or whatever when they upgrade, right? So that means there's now all these other entry points into the Switch ecosystem, other opportunities for Nintendo to start selling games to people. You know, that's the bread and butter, the real money makers. So, like, sure, handheld strategy or chip shortage or last minute change or whatever aside, whether the OLED 4K Switch was ever a real thing or whether it's just an OLED Switch and Bloomberg conflated the prototypes, who knows? But like either way, Nintendo's getting way more money out of this strategy than anything else they would have done probably in hindsight now that we're here and seeing what's happening. Like, folks who wouldn't buy a Switch at any official MSRP, who may only buy used or like get that hand-me-down, they're buying the games, like I was saying. People who need the latest and greatest Switch hardware, no matter the features or costs, like they're already buying games, but now they're coughing up $350 for an OLED Switch. And there's people like you guys who want to maybe sit and wait for a real upgrade or a Switch 2 or whatever it ends up being. You're still buying the games in the meantime. They didn't lose your money. Even if like I was saying a few episodes ago and a minute ago about like the demographics, and how I had this whole theory about, they're trying like the TV first demographic, and that's another audience that can get to double dip, and that's separate from handheld, and that's all still true, I'd say. It's just those people will keep buying until it's ready for them to buy the new console. Like no one's gonna go, well, there's no 4K Switch, I'm never gonna buy a Nintendo Switch game again and just leave my Switch in a dust. Like,
I bet that's not one person, and that person. No, yeah. But, no, there is. There has to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's people complaining legitimately that like Age of Calamity doesn't run well on the Switch, and games are getting bogged down. And as next gen expands further into its newer specs, it's gonna be hard for the Switch to keep up, and there's gonna be more cloud gaming and all that. And those are valid, but like I don't think with all that happening, if Nintendo came out with Breath of the Wild 2, they're gonna go like, no, I won't on principle because your Age of Calamity ran slow. Like that's not gonna be a thing.
Yeah, it almost sounds like they're thinking like Nintendo's going to keep like developing games for, I don't know, stronger hardware that they don't have or something.
Well, I mean, Age of Calamity literally was that issue. The frame rate's not great. So, but that's, but no, they optimized. It has not been
optimized. I mean, that one wasn't, who made that game in particular?
Tecmo Koei, Team Ninja.
Yeah, I don't know, is it arguably the biggest game that's on Switch?
No, but it was, to be fair, one of their flagship holiday games last year in a weird pandemic year. But it was their big November release, as you may recall. So, like, there is some validity in that. But again, just because you thought Age of Calamity ran slow, you're not going to buy... If you read a review saying Breath of the Wild 2 runs beautifully on Switch, you're not going to go, yeah, but Age of Calamity didn't. I'm taking a stand. Like, maybe someone will, but not enough that Nintendo's going to be like,
Talk about the fact that you're using Age of Calamity of all games.
Because that's the one that's most notoriously, like, bogged down. First party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I see your point. Yeah, it's Age of Calamity of all games. It's not even like it's not like Odyssey. It's not Splatoon.
Yeah, exactly. It's not if it was Odyssey or Breath of the Wild proper.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think for now, like, basically in my like assessment at this point with the Switch OLED, like as I thought about it, Nintendo's going to squeeze money out of everyone every way they can. They have the data showing this works. They made the assessment. They have actual business degrees. Like, I've rambled on this show about the reasoning for why this may happen or that may happen or next thing may happen. Obviously, Nintendo made the right choice with the OLED Switch, and I bet you it's going to be big this holiday. And then, 18 months from now, they'll get me to spend another $350 on a 4K Switch or something. So, they got us hook, line, and sinker. They know what they're doing. It just, this thing got bigger than... The 4K Switch just got bigger than they could control in terms of the rumors, I guess. And we perpetuated it a little, not going to lie, but... Or I did, at least. But,
You did.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ain't taking any of that.
But, it's one of those things, like, if that's where the conversation's going and you talk about Nintendo, that's where the conversation goes. But, yeah, if we're talking... unless you guys have any other thoughts on the Switch OLED, I probably exhausted the topic, but...
I just kind of think that putting an OLED screen on this is kind of a waste considering the performance of some of the games as we were talking about. Like Apex Legends is still going to look like crap on an OLED Switch,
but it'll be vibrant crap, Kevin. Vibrant.
Oh, great. Like, so that's the weirdest thing that I took from this OLED Switch announcement. It's not going to make the games look. It's going to make, like you said, it's going to make them look a little bit more vibrant, and a little bit brighter. Yep. But if the performance isn't there, why would I buy another device for it? And but then again, it is only like you said, it's only a couple of cases, whether it be Age of Calamity. If you don't have one,
it's a no-brainer.
Oh yeah.
Age of Calamity, Monster Hunter apparently doesn't run, has some spots where it doesn't run well. Not Monster Hunter, Monster Hunter Stories.
Yeah, I was gonna say Monster Hunter. It's like, even though that game looks like it should be chugging, it runs.
Yeah,
Stories does graphically look intense, as I know from the 27 trailers they've released for it. But good God,
and then who knows about crap? What's Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever they end up calling that game?
Right. Breath Wilder. Yeah, Breathe Wilder. Breath or Wilder. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. And I do think the other thing, to your point about some games don't run well or look particularly great, like Apex does look kind of muddy, is when you have a bigger screen that's the same resolution because it's still 720 and it's still the same literal dimension, like pixel dimensions. Everything's gonna be a little blown out, so that's not gonna help either. Like it's gonna be all the pixels are slightly bigger, so that'll be fun. But then again, with the 3DS XL, that was the same case and it didn't look bad at all, and that had the 3D going too on top of the blown up pixels. So maybe that's not a huge deal. But yeah, I think if they could have done 1080p, that would have been cool. But then at that point, they have the power to do the 4K AI thing again. So it becomes a circular thing. But yeah, I did mention Nintendo has the market research, and it can maybe leave us scratching our heads, but they know what they're doing. And then there's another company that had market research that left me at least scratching my head, but maybe they know what they're doing, and that is the new Mario watch. Angel, I know you've seen it. Kevin, have you seen this watch?
Yeah, I've seen it.
So for those who haven't, Nintendo and luxury watch maker Tag, is it Heuer? It's Heuer, right? That's how you say it? Heuer? They're Swiss, so I'm not...
Yes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, those guys. Nintendo and their buddy Tag, they unveiled a new collaboration for a Mario-themed watch that costs $2,150. So I'm going to pause there just to let that set in for a moment. $2,150, which sounds insane.
The fact that I could say I could get a Rhythm Heaven arcade machine for less than that is, well, I can't justify it.
Yeah, so you haven't mentioned this yet on the podcast, Angel, but you are getting a Rhythm Heaven arcade machine, aren't you?
That's the plan.
How much is something like that, if you don't mind me asking?
Like about $1,500.
You could get a Mario watch or an arcade machine and a half for the Mario watch's price.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Imported. But yeah.
Now, in Tag Heuer,
where are you going to put it?
Yeah, that's actually a good question.
You guys have no space.
Oh, I have space. Actually, I already have the perfect spot for it.
Okay.
There you go, Kevin. How's that for an answer?
I mean,
a spot.
Yeah. I'll see it when it's there.
Yeah, when's it supposed to arrive, Angel?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a couple months.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm excited.
Have you actually purchased it yet, or like you're planning to buy it?
We're pretty much in talks, but it's pretty much like it's a done deal. Give it a go ahead at this point.
Guarantee.
It's a done deal.
Gotcha.
Thing. Yeah.
Well, that's super cool that you're getting it, to be honest. Like, because it's not just you're getting a Nintendo arcade machine. You're getting one, a franchise you love, and two, like a rarer arcade machine from them. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, freaking Rhythm Heaven arcade machine. When I found out those existed, like not too long after we got Rhythm Heaven DS, because I got really obsessed with that game. I just started looking up everything Rhythm Heaven. Then I discovered the Game Boy Advance game, and then led me to learn about the arcade machine. And at that point, obviously, it was like, oh, I just want to play one. Couldn't find one in Japan when I went to Japan twice. Like, part of my time spent there was actually looking for this machine. And now, apparently, I could get a brand new one, basically. Well, it's pretty much brand new. With, like, everything on it.
All for less than the price.
Right here in this room.
And for less than the price of a Tag Heuer watch. Which, to be fair, we're talking about, like, oh, it's $2,150 for its Mario watch. Like, all their watches are in that price range. Like, that's not...
The thing is, like, that watch, for being that price, like, I feel like, I don't know, just looking at it aesthetically, like, I don't really like it enough to even feel like it's worth even $1,000. Like, the watch that I have, the Seiko one, it's like the golden Mario one. Like, I don't know, it just looks very nice. I love that watch.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't worn it yet because it's still too big. I need to get rid of some, whatever
links in the band,
Yeah, some links in the band. Like, yeah, like that one, I feel should be worth well, obviously not 2,000 either, but if I saw these two watches side by side, I guess I would assume the Tag Heuer one would be worth a little more just because they're like, oh, it's a smartwatch, so it's probably really expensive. but I would still put it like in the
Right.
couple hundred.
Well, let's actually talk.
because aesthetically, it's not that nice.
Yeah, so to catch people up who haven't seen it, so for this watch, it's a typical Tag Heuer watch. It's part of their connected line, which, as Angel, you mentioned, it runs Google's Wear OS, so it's a smartwatch. And what they did is it's basically a different colorway. So they put some Mario flourishes, like iconography, in place of the 3, 6, and 9. I think it's like a mushroom, a warp pipe, and a star. There's a Mario M on the side crown. The color accents are red and blue, Mario-ish. And yeah, it's interesting because Tag Heuer, they do mechanical watches. Like, that's what they cut their teeth on. That's what they're known for. That's, they're a luxury Swiss watchmaker with mechanical
that
watches.
expression a thing? Like, cut your teeth? Like,
I don't know, man. I'm just using the language that's been presented to me in my life. I don't know what the origin of that is.
Outside of just sounding like a really unpleasant action. I don't know, I'm just curious, but I know like it's one of your favorite ones because I definitely hear it a lot.
My guess.
I was just curious if you knew, given how good you are at random facts.
The only thing I could think of is a reference to animals, because animals will like their fangs are sharp and they will like gnaw on stuff to sharpen their teeth so they could go in for the kill better and be more skilled at their kill.
Okay,
so it
that
could be
is definitely something rats do for sure.
But I mean, I don't know. That's my guess. Anyone?
Like beavers, but they don't really cut them. They're
sharp. Yeah, but I don't know. But anyway, point is,
I guess I'll look it up.
Yeah, the point is, they do make mechanical watches normally. So this thing, if it was a mechanical watch, like design-wise, yeah, I still personally, I'm like you, Angel. I'm not hugely a fan of it, but it's a digital recreation of a physical watch design, I guess. And you would think, like, okay, if they're famous for mechanical watches, just make a mechanical watch with some Mario art. But what they did, as we already said, is they did a smartwatch. And what's kind of interesting there is, like, I do like your Seiko one a lot, Angel. Like, I think it's really, like, actually quite classy looking for, like, a Mario watch. But I feel like if they were doing, like, a Mario watch that has, like, this sort of attention around it, this is kind of a more interesting way to go. Whether or not it's executed well, like, the concept, like, in the same way that Lego, like, got how Mario is about interactive experiences as much as the characters and really did, like, a whole new type of Lego for their crossover, or how, like, Universal understands if they're going to do a theme park around Mario, it needs to be an interactive theme park, and they made, like, the power-up wristbands. Like, this seems like, in its own limited way, Tag Heuer is kind of, like, trying to do the same thing, because they have this hook, if you will, with this watch that Mario will respond to how active you are in a given day. So at quarterly increments, as you go towards your activity goal, he will pop up and play a different animation. He pops out a warp pipe. He uses a mushroom. He gains a star. He eventually jumps on a flagpole. And, everyone loves their watch encouraging them to exercise, right? No? Just me?
Guess so.
Okay. But yeah, so like on paper, it does sort of check the box that would make, of what makes Mario Mario. Like, it responds to your input. In this case, it's just your activity, but still, it does do what it is interactive in a way. Like, Mario in general is a simplistic experience. Run, jump, bop enemies. This too is very minimal, but I don't know. It feels like it's like not enough. Like 4 animations every day. Like, is that worth it at that point? Like, even my Apple Watch has like more variations of just boring text. Like, hey, you worked out today. Like, it's dozens of those. Like, Nintendo is giving them these snazzy animations of Mario, and they do look really snazzy. I don't know if you guys watched the sizzle reel for the watch, but like, they are nice animations of Mario, and not ones from the games. They seem like sort of custom thing. Like, run with it. Like, have them make a few more than 4. Like, I don't know. Maybe they will in the future. Tag's plan is to make the watch faces and activity tracker available on all their connected smartwatches, ultimately. So it'll be a freebie for people to check out, if they own the watches already, or if they get them separate from the Mario campaign. And if there's traction there, maybe they'll do updates with some new stuff down the line. But right now, like, they're asking people to pay $150 more than the already high-priced connected watch for literally 3 physical flourishes and 4 animations, and I guess a couple watch faces. I don't know. Like, it seems weird.
Google Wear watch is worth over $400.
Especially because Google Wear is going bye-bye in favor of Google Samsung. Well, Wear OS is going away in favor of Google and Samsung teaming up to make Wear, which is not Wear OS. It's actually more based on Samsung's Tizen, but it ties into Wear OS. But it might be, I don't know if they retroactively will bring it to existing watches. It's a mess.
I'm willing to bet it doesn't happen.
I'm pretty sure you're right. But to the audience research thing I was saying at the start of this topic, like, they're limiting this thing to 2,000 pieces. There maybe are 2,000 people who will snatch this thing up. I joked on Twitter that, like,
absolutely. There's going to be 2,000 people that snatch this up.
The dude who spent $1.5 million on a copy of Super Mario 64 the other day, like, this is pocket change for him. He's the demographic for this. He'll buy it. But I just feel like even if they just flipped how they announced this, like if they put emphasis on the watch faces across their entire line, and then for like the true fans, guess what? There's also this custom watch to go with it. Like even just the flipping of that just seems, it feels better. Like by emphasizing the watch and then having the faces be secondary, it just feels so like ho-hum. I don't know. It's not like I'm gonna buy a $2,000 watch or even consider it, but I think the reason I had wanted to talk about this is like I feel like my big takeaway from this is that as Nintendo continues to expand its IP partnerships and licensing, not every single one's necessarily gonna be a slam dunk. Like, yeah, Nintendo could partner with Heuer and make 2,000 of these at $2,100 a pop, sure, but like they're still figuring out how to do this. I feel like if they were a little more grounded, or their market research suggested that this could work, like it would have been really cool if they maybe teamed up with a bigger company like Fossil Group, and they did Super Mario themed watch faces on $100 watches instead of $1,000 watches. Like Fossil's like their Wear watches for a couple $100, and a much bigger audience and a much bigger opportunity to go further with the concept because they're developing it for a much bigger audience. It just feels like, I don't know, a premium watch with an IP that isn't premium. It's like a demographic Venn diagram that's kind of empty in the middle. Apparently, there's 2,000 people there, probably, but I don't know. It just seems like they could have gone one of two ways, and they kind of like stepped halfway in each of the two ways, and it's sort of this weird thing that we are now seeing come out. But yeah, I assume you guys aren't buying. Well, I know Angel, you said you aren't. Kevin, I assume you're not buying it.
Why would I buy this?
I just wanted that.
Why?
I know. Yeah, I don't know what exactly. It doesn't do enough. Like if you're gonna do the Mario promoting exercise thing, have him go like all in. Like, yeah, I don't know. It feels so like not half-ass, but kind of half-ass. But yeah, speaking of demographic crisscrosses, here's one that's very unexpected that happened this week. That I know that we wanted to touch on a little. Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl, which somehow actually manages, now that I think about it, to borrow both Smash Bros. And PlayStation Battle All Stars names in one title. You got Brawl for Smash and All Stars. But yeah, Nickelodeon's doing the whole Smash Bros. Thing with characters from, I think, throughout its history, right? I mean, we're talking the likes of like SpongeBob and Patrick to Reptar from the Rugrats, and characters from Loud House to Nigel Thornberry of the Wild Thornberries, Michelangelo and Leonardo from Ninja Turtles. I think they're with their like old school outfits too, right, Angel?
Not so much outfits,
or
just
look, appearance. That's what I mean.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising considering they've had two original Nickelodeon Ninja Turtles. Like, you think they would promote either their current one, the Rise of the TMNT designs, or their actual CG one that was just called Ninja Turtles. But I mean, the game obviously looks like it's hitting more of a nostalgia.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting is like, memes aside, and there are a lot of them, people seem like into this, like kind of legitimately, and I don't fully understand why. Honestly, like I guess it's cool from the nostalgia perspective, but like, is there who is making this? Why? What's the?
Yeah. So, yeah, you'd think this would get like the same amount of reception that Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion, XL,
or even Nickelodeon like Kart Racers from like 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I mean, those like they came and went, like no one cared. But like, since I do follow a lot of Smash circles, like, yeah, this one is getting a ton of hype, and it's because it's being developed by, I don't remember the name of the team, but they're responsible for a game called Slap City, which is one of the most popular Smash clones that was developed essentially by Smash fans for Smash fans to offer like a kind of like a hybrid between like Nintendo 64 Smash and Melee. So you have like more simplistic character designs of 64 and levels like 64, but you have a lot of the tech from Melee, basically wave dashing. And on top of that, it also has something called rollback netcode, which the long and short of it is that, well, the short of it is that for a fighting game, rollback netcode is like, you can't really get much better than that, basically. So, yeah, and as a result...
So what does that mean, rollback netcode? Like, what does that actually do?
I'm not 100% sure exactly how it works, but I mean, obviously both people still need to have like a decent online connection, like that just like has to happen. But in a nutshell, like the alternative is what most people have, which is delay-based netcode, which instead of running the game normally, it will slow down both parties so that they can essentially catch up to each other in gameplay. So, essentially one side's going to be getting like a ton of lag, and like that's never fun. So even if like one person is slightly behind on the other, it's just going to either like the game is going to proceed normally, but your inputs are going to be delayed, which is really annoying, or it's going to move like at a PowerPoint's pace.
I see. Yeah.
Rollback netcode is essentially trying to resolve those issues as much as it possibly can. But to my understanding, it almost makes it like if both people have a good connection, people will say that playing with rollback netcode is like you're playing like in person. Like it's apparently that good. And this has that, which is kind of surprising considering, Smash Brothers doesn't have rollback, Street Fighter V doesn't have rollback. Like a bunch of really high profile games don't have rollback netcode. Only like very few of them. I don't even know if
the most recent Arc System games have rollback. So Grand Blue Fantasy Versus has rollback, and then Guilty Gear, the one they just released, has rollback. And there's a huge push for them to add rollback to Fighters, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Damn.
It's crazy that a Nickelodeon fighting game is ahead of the curve
So
on
that's
like half
pretty
the
much-
Is going to have better netcode than Smash?
Yeah, or
Yeah, so
anything
that's-
except the Arc System work games, based on what you're
Oh,
saying.
and then that Power Rangers fighting game, Battle for the Grid,
Oh, yeah,
also
that
has
one also has
rollback.
Yeah,
What is with these
which
licensed
gets a
games
lot
having
of
the best?
hype and support for having that, and people really love that game. And this one, like because it has, I guess, for lack of a better, well, I won't say for lack of a better term, because it has the pedigree that indie studio developed, over the course of developing Slap City, like rightly deserved, I should say. Yeah, like they're essentially shaping up to make this game that is gonna, I don't know,
Actually be good.
just have a lot of eyes on it. And this is kind of where, like I mentioned, that the title kind of comes into play because it is competing with Smash, which, in spite of it not having rollback netcode, people still put up with it because of just how big it got. I mean, we're approaching 80 to 90 characters? I don't even know the number anymore. But yeah, I mean, we're getting, I don't know how, I mean, Nickelodeon has a ton of characters they could pull from, but I don't know. I'm already seeing a lot of discourse on, oh, I hope this character makes it in, oh, I hope that character makes it in. But I guess I'll have to see if all, none, or maybe even a few more make it in, or, I mean, they are pulling pretty deep from the roster, it seems, and I don't know how much of that is, like, the Slap City devs going like, oh, let's get Cinnamon Toast Man, or whatever
Excuse
his name
you,
is.
it's Powdered Toast Man. Did you not watch Ren and Stimpy? Oh,
No.
okay. End of conversation. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like, kind of like to that effect. Like, I mean, everyone. I watched a few. There's a few people on YouTube that like I'll watch their. I don't typically don't watch reaction videos, but there's a few that I'm like I'll watch the reaction video just because I'm curious how they would react, just because they're like from a different age group. That I'm just genuinely curious, like, oh, what's he gonna think about this? Because they're just, they're more grew up on He-Man when we're more grew up on, Pokemon, and yeah, surprisingly, like, this is really hitting a nice sweet spot with, it seems like a lot of people. I mean, obviously they were jazzed about, I already forgot his name, Breaded
Powdered
Cinnamon
Toast
Blast
Man.
Like, I was kind of pleasantly surprised that Zim is
Yeah.
in there. I love that Reptar got picked as a Rugrats rep. I mean, obviously I'm jazzed about the two Ninja Turtles, though personally, I mean, because there are 4 animated series, I thought it'd be cool if they had maybe like Michelangelo represent like the classic, Leonardo represent the 2003 series, and pretty much have each turtle represent one of the 4.
That would have been actually really cool. Yeah.
And they all could, obviously they would all play a little differently. Have Donatello represent the newest one because he has like a mechanical shell robot doohickey thing that just lends itself, I don't know, to do whatever they want with it. But, or they could just be costumes, which would kind of work, but I guess we'll have to see.
I do think to your point, though, like, the
roster can be, and the stages look really nice. A lot of these, like, I am kind of pleasantly surprised, which kind of gets me excited about the game a little. Like how many things I recognized just from moves. Just like, I mean, stages are stages. I mean, I saw the Technodrome from Ninja Turtles that looked cool. I saw the Flying Dutchman's ship, which looked cool. And I mean, that episode is like a classic. But then there was like a move that Patrick did where it looked like a down air, you know, like a typical like Toon Link sword thrust down kind of attack. But it was him putting himself inside an ice cream cone. And I'm like, oh, that's the episode he did it. That's what he did in the Olympics for like the ice cream drop or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, just like they could have just done the, I guess, what's it called? The Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion route and just kind of give most of the characters punch and kicks. But it looks like they're actually trying to pull from, you know, their history the way Smash Brothers does, which kind of makes this more exciting.
Yeah, I think that's honestly the thing it really is going for. Is like the team behind it, the Slap City guys, are just doing such a good job of paying tribute and bridging the gaps of different Nickelodeon generations. Because you know, everyone you rattled off is like, everyone grew up with different Nickelodeon. Like they even have more recent stuff, like, you know, like Zim is paired with Danny Phantom, which is more, you know, mid 2000s. But then like you have like Our Real Monsters paired with Hey Arnold. Like every generation, so to speak, is there. Nigel Thornberry. Yeah, they're all kind of there.
Yeah, most people from our generation are pretty much able to recognize every character, even if they don't watch the show, except for two that were on there, which I only recognize because I still keep up with current cartoons on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network.
Right.
Which is Lincoln Loud and Lucy, which is just from, like, I guess the new... It's not quite SpongeBob caliber in terms of popularity, but it's the only other show I could think of in the last decade that has literally, like, made the... You know, if you go to the TV guide, if you go to Cartoon Network, it's like 90% Teen Titans Go and, like, 10% everything else. And in Nickelodeon, it's like 90% SpongeBob and 10% everything else. But this show, The Loud House, managed to actually get it almost 50-50.
Wow. That says a lot.
Which, you know, it's kind of ridiculous because it's like when you go to Cartoon Network, I mean, to Nickelodeon, you're either going to see a ton of Loud House or a ton of SpongeBob. Because I guess that show just did really well. It's just a more grounded comedy, which maybe plays to its strengths. Or I mean, maybe plays to its benefit because, you know, SpongeBob is very out there and as is a lot of cartoons at the time right now. Very high energy.
Very YouTube generation.
Random humor. Yep. Yeah, this one definitely takes it a little slower. It's still a little high energy sometimes, but I can appreciate some episodes. They're like, oh, this is just normal, cleverly funny.
I think the only part of Nickelodeon they haven't covered is like the early days, like Rock. I mean, I guess they have Ren and Stimpy, but like Rocko's Modern Life, like Stickly.
Yeah, they literally have Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy. That's two of the three Nicktoons that started Nickelodeon cartoons.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, they should get Stickly in there. That's all I'm saying.
And if you look at the cover they released, it's all silhouetted, but like people were able to make out Cat Dog as a character. You could make out Ren and Stimpy. You could make out Aang or Ong. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. And Korra from Last Avatar or Last Airbender.
Last Avatar. Yeah, it's.
And I'm sure there's some other silhouettes in there. So yeah, it's shaping up to be good. And people are already, you know, memes are already all over the place. Like there's that classic one where people, I think there's that picture from Toy Story 2 or 3 where Andy's throwing Woody into a garbage pail, like, I don't want to play with you anymore, and, you know, just replacing it with Ultimate. Or, you know, or just, you know, parroting, like, the DLC packs and showing, like, oh, here comes Rocco and some other characters, and the last one is Byleth.
My favorite one of those, well, it's not really me, but my favorite idea someone had is so Nickelodeon, when they had Nickelodeon Studios down in Florida, you know how Nick in the 90s, their logo is always different shapes, like the orange slime would take the shape of like a splat or like a ball or like, so at the studio they had a foot. So the Nickelodeon logo was on like a bare foot. And so I was like, hey, I mean, if Smash Bros. Can have Master Hand, Nickelodeon Battle All-Stars or All-Star Battle, whatever it's called, can have Master Foot. And like literally just use the logo as the final boss, which would actually be kind of funny. So I really
hope whatever they pick for final boss is like like maybe if the orange slime is shape shifting, because I mean I have taken, like you said, a lot of shapes, especially those bumpers where they have like the nick.
Yes.
they could definitely have fun with it.
I think it's surprising how well this works. And I think it really is a tribute to the developers actually caring. Because, I mean, they're even doing stuff like we talked about, the netcode, but even like they're doing their own version of trophies. They're doing in-game art unlocks, like spirits and trophies and Smash. Like, they're doing everything that they could possibly do. So it's not a quick and dirty license cash in, it doesn't seem like.
Yeah, and the developers definitely makes the biggest difference. Because, like, Smash Up, the Ninja Turtle Smash Brothers didn't get this much, praise. And unfortunately, it tried to be both Smash Brothers and not Smash Brothers. It was like some weird in between PlayStation All-Stars and Smash Brothers. Like it had a health bar, but you could also bring people out. And I don't know. At least this one, it's clear, like, yeah, we know we're Smash clone. We're embracing that. We're going to do the ring outs. I mean, only Smash Brothers has really done it well. So it's nice to try. I mean, why not let other people try it? I mean, there's like a bajillion other kart racers over there. Yeah. And I still stand by Mario Sonic Transformed, or Mario Sonic.
Sonic Racing Transformed.
Sonic All-Stars, whatever, yeah. That one. I still say that's my favorite kart racer, even though I don't remember its name properly.
You love it so much, you don't know its name.
GTR comes really close. Yeah. And even Sonic R, or Sonic Racing, was really good. The recent one, I was just kind of hoping for a sequel to Transform.
Team Sonic Racing?
Yeah. Smash Brothers, the aspect
Team Sonic Racing's actually getting a re-release this year for the 3rd anniversary, supposedly.
I was about to say, there was some sort of announcement for it.
Yeah, like it got like the box got leaked.
Of all the games, remake Transformed.
Don't even need to remake it. Just like re-release it. It's already HD.
I want to plug in my
just
Wii U.
Throw it back out there.
Well, that's why, that's why, like literally don't release it. Just have better performance, which is great. Because some levels on the Wii U kind of chugged a little.
Yeah, I mean that was a graphically intense game, surprisingly. Like some of the landscapes and environments they made were really intricate.
Yeah, it literally made like the transformation aspect of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or just Mario Kart 8 in general, seem like just less impactful. It's like here are full on like flying sections that actually feel like they have different mechanics, and same thing with the speedboat. Whereas, the gliding and water sections, I feel, don't really add much outside of just like connecting 2 segments of a level. Whereas the other ones change the way the game plays altogether. But, I still love Mario Kart. But, yeah, Transformed definitely did something great.
And it carved its own path, which maybe, maybe Nick can do too.
Sega knows, because, yeah.
Yep. And it's out this fall, so we'll find out sooner rather than later.
I mean, watch this get like nominated for like Fighting Game of the Year.
Imagine it winning at the Game Awards.
Somehow beat like Strive.
Can you imagine that basically the baton's
people would be both really happy and confused because it's like the fact that this made it over. I feel like Guilty Gear Strive is obviously getting a lot of praise. I just see people being all over that.
It is sort of the perfect passing of the baton because right as Smash wraps up its last Fighter DLC later this year, Nick's gonna show up. So if the game's good, and if this is more than just memery in terms of people's interests, obviously not Smash scale whatsoever, but it is kind of like this weird spiritual, like, oh, well, Smash is done, now we turn to Nickelodeon and its characters. But we'll see. And who knows when this fall is coming out. All we know is fall.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is, unless there's anything else you want to say, Angel, that was Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl.
No, just looking forward to it. Only question is what console to get it on, because, knee-jerk reaction would be like, oh, get on the Switch, but then I'm like, wait, why not get it on something more powerful? So it's like I could get it on my PS4 or on PC, which apparently is coming at some point. So I don't know. I guess I'm just gonna have to go with whatever the majority of the people I would be playing it with get.
Are you anticipating a large group of your friends buying it?
The Smash Bros. Discord.
Fair. They're all gonna get it, you think?
It looks like most of them.
And
not at least the ones that I would play
not
with.
To make fun of you guys too much, but this is the Smash Discord that you said was gonna beat a cosplay group who doesn't play Smash but ended up losing, right?
Yeah, because we didn't play against the cosplay group.
I know. I just remember that episode. We're like, oh, we're gonna kill these people this weekend. We're like, are you though? And then like a week later, like, yeah, we didn't. Good times.
I know. I pulled my weight. I killed all the people that I beat the rest of the team.
You did what had to be done. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah, I took out like 4 or 5 of them. Actually, I think it was 8. No, it was 4 or 5. No, it was. I think it was a big. I don't remember. But
You killed so many,
yeah.
you couldn't even keep count.
Anyway,
is what you're saying.
no, we got really overconfident because we had at that point we were like there's no way we can lose, and then they just weren't ready for a Little Mac that took out I think just as many people that I took out, pretty much doing away all the work that I did. But yeah,
Now I know for next time, never underestimate cosplayers. Let that be a life lesson. If there's one thing you take away from this episode, just never underestimate cosplayers. So yeah, that's Nickelodeon. I guess there's also Fuser, the other individual game we were going to talk about this episode. Have either of you tried Fuser? No, right?
No.
Okay,
No.
so this one is a bit older of a release. It came out last holiday, so 8 months old. Oh man! But in light of it just having one of those free Switch Online game trials, I wanted to touch on it a bit because I get it now. I understand it. Like Fuser is always in this weird gray area for me because it isn't visually as easy to figure out as something like Rock Band or Guitar Hero. There's a cursor, there's Almar along the top, you drop some sick beats or whatever, but like it's not instantly recognizable like how you're supposed to do that. And so that was kind of instantly like, oh, that's a little off-putting. But then on the other hand, you got the pedigree of its developer, Harmonix. That pedigree is really bar none if you like music games, especially if you were a big fan of Rock Band or Guitar Hero like I was. And I feel like with our history or my history or our history with those games in particular, it's really the sweet spot for us. I mean, maybe you're a bit younger, Kevin, so maybe not. But like Angel, you and I, that was college right there, like Rock Band, Guitar Hero. And I know that
Sean, but you're significantly
Then
older.
you-
Wait, what?
by 5 months.
Wait, hold on. Say what did you say about me real quick?
I was saying you were a bit
I
younger,
missed
so
that for a second.
maybe Rock Band, Guitar Hero didn't have quite the same sweet spot for you as it did for us in college.
Oh no, what are you talking about?
I guess
dude?
high
That's
schoolers would
all I
love
used
it.
to
Elvis was
play.
all over that.
Yeah. Okay.
Jesus,
So high school
That's-
and college, but
dude, that's Guitar Hero and Rock Band is all that I used to play. I had the Rock Band kids when Guitar Hero did its own Rock Band with the World Tour. I bought that. Please,
I didn't know you were so into it.
this guy.
Man,
This
first
guy.
I say you like Breath of the Wild a few episodes ago. Now I'm saying you don't like Guitar Hero. It's like I don't even know you. Who are you, or who am I? I
Guitar
don't
Hero
know.
3 had the best set list.
Yeah, actually, it did. It really did. But yeah, I feel like for me at least, and I guess sorry for Angel because we're the same age. Like this was one of the games that like they say I guess high school could do it too, but like there's some games that like just having it in college makes it so much better. Like everyone has like a Mario Party or a Mario Kart or a Smash Bros or a Madden or a Twisted Metal, or one of our friends was saying Excite Truck the other day. Like really any multiplayer centric game has that like collegiate boost where if you have a group of people around your age all always available, it's really fun to play. And I just feel like Rock Band and Guitar Hero, like when Guitar Hero went full band really, they were such social experiences to begin with. Like, you could play solo, but having, like, 3 friends in your dorm or apartment jamming out to whatever song, like, I don't know, Danny California or whatever in Rock Band, that just felt like the way to play. Like, maybe with some drinks, maybe rotating with a group of friends. Like, I feel like if you played Rock Band any other way, I mean, maybe you would disagree, but I feel like the experience wasn't the same. It's like having that group that would always play with you. And, like, Angel, how often would you say we end up playing those games in college? Because there was a year or two that, like, it was, I feel like all the time.
Early. Oh.
Or at least you were in the room when it was being played.
With
You were
you?
at least in the room. You were definitely there. It'd usually be like Victor and me, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like literally every single household had one of the band games. If it wasn't Rockstar, it was Guitar Hero World Tour. But yeah, it was.
Yeah. It
It was a
thing.
staple of just about every kind of game night. That wasn't. Smash
Yeah,
Brothers,
exactly.
but yeah.
And
because everyone played it. Like even it was a very casual.
yeah,
friendly game.
and it was kind of that cottage industry of like that sort of social music game did go belly up. Too many new pieces of plastic, too expensive, too many versions like Rock Band, Beatles, and Guitar Hero, Aerosmith, and all that. But I really do think overall, like that music game subgenre where you're not playing to the music like a rhythm game, but you're playing the music. Like it's a lot of fun, especially if you're big into music itself, and it's something that kind of doesn't exist anymore. Which brings us back to Fuser, because it's a game that I feel like is trying to simulate in an arcadey way the feeling of being a big DJ in the same way that like Guitar Hero did a Rockstar. I mean, not exactly the same, because there was DJ Hero, which literally had a note highway just a little different. I mean more conceptually here, because how Fuser works, like I said, is you have this row of songs up along the top of the screen with different genres, and each song has these 4 different elements you can pull from to add to your mix, each mapped to a different face button on the controller. There's the beat, the bass, the melody, and the vocals, and then your DJ deck, which occupies the lower half of the screen, also has 4 corresponding slots. So with a press of the corresponding face button for beat or bass or melody or vocals, these slots are then filled, and the new element starts to sync into what you're already mixing, and that part of the music starts building in. And if you want more points, what you do is you drop it on the downbeat, which is measured by a small meter, both on the album art up top and within a larger timeline bar on your main DJ deck. So it's not just about I want to hear this, I want to do that. You got to time your button presses with those downbeats, which so far with my experience, I'm done playing it. With my experience, it was the typical pop song 4/4 beat, but maybe that changes as you go on. But the game actually kind of interestingly handles all the blending for you, so nothing clashes too badly. Some stuff is weird. Some songs don't necessarily make sense together, but it never doesn't mesh. You know what I mean? It always will be kind of in tempo with one another and that sort of thing. But you can definitely hear differences when you're on beat with your placement with that downbeat versus when you're not. And you do not only have that auditory feedback, but there's also a point system and in-game crowd reactions and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the basic structure. You have the beats, you drop them in on the downbeat, and that's pretty much it. But from there, what Harmonix started doing was layering up the gameplay. So if you perhaps want 2 beats instead of a beat and a bass line, yeah, you can do that. Just instead of tapping the face button, you now drag and drop the song from the top of the screen with the cursor to the spot you'd like to use, and it will replace whatever's playing. So if you want to replace a vocal with another, a second bass line or something, you just kind of drag it on top, let it go. And then they just keep piling on. And that's what gets kind of fun, is they really start adding stuff. So, many DJs, what if you want to have another thing queued up as you're mixing together other stuff, and then you just kind of insert it, but it's sort of preset. There's a cue thing to do that, which is a button press. And what if you want, say, fewer elements playing at once? Well, the deck itself has its own controls you can use with the cursor to do things like muting or swapping out a track completely. Taking a live track and putting it back in the queue, taking the queue, putting it in track. If you want to just have one of the 4 elements play, you can do that and kind of phase out the others. You can cut one off and just get rid of it without replacing it. There's all these different things you can do. It is a lot to take in. But Harmonix does sort of hold your hand through it, particularly in the story single-player mode. It's they keep introducing new elements and they sort of guide you through it. But once you kind of get going, it's just really fun. You can even mess with tempos and tones and do all sorts of other things with the overall music, and it's cool. It's the gameplay mechanism it's relatively simple. It's very different than Guitar Hero, but it's relatively simple once you figure it out, and then they just start kind of piling things on top. And then where the actual challenge comes in is they then have the crowd. So kind of like in Guitar Hero where there's cheers and boos if you nail or miss notes, here the crowd will actually make requests. So you're doing your thing, you're messing with your tempos, you're doing whatever, and as you're playing there'll be these little speech bubbles with a couple words and an icon, and you need to try to mix in that request before the timer of it runs out. So stuff like adding a bass line in a pop song, or maybe playing 2 concurrent beats, or doing something with the vocals, or speeding something up, or slowing something down. And these requests come in faster and faster, so you're mixing kind of what you want here, but also to what the game wants you to do, and that's kind of where the challenges come in. And that's in the
So fusing?
Yeah, fusing.
So kind of
like fusing. It's it's almost called Fuser for a reason. Yeah.
Oh.
And this request system, it's in the single player mode, but it's also in the game's other big mode, Battle. I haven't actually tried it myself, but from my understanding, going head to head against other people, you are trying to rack up the most points by keeping your mixes as steady as possible on the downbeat, but also taking as many requests as you can. So it's kind of that fun little, and obviously you want to not be distracted by your opponent, who's presumably in some way being shown to you as well. I don't really know, because that's the odd thing about it. Maybe understandable given how much screen space you need for all the albums and decks and cursors flying around. But what's odd is there is only online play. And this is the biggest pitfall of the game, I think. There's no local multiplayer, which suddenly makes this almost like the opposite of a Guitar Hero or a Rock Band experience, because there's no in-person social aspect. There's no let's gather around and do it or whatever. It's still fun, presumably. I didn't get to try it myself, but I feel like it's missing that extra little part. Because, when you do Guitar Hero or Rock Band together, even before the band setup in Guitar Hero, you're like doing dueling guitars, like you're staying there with the two guitars. Like it felt like something. This, it's all just like you're seeing points, presumably. So I don't know how that translates to the longevity or the replayability of the game, but it is something worth noting. Another kind of odd decision is that the game uses as I mentioned, a cursor, right, to press what amounts to these big buttons on the screen, and yet no touchscreen support in handheld mode. I get it's a multi-platform release, but it just seemed like it would have been kind of a no-brainer to use a touchscreen for at least some of the deck controls or dragging and dropping the music if you want to like double up beats or something. And, for aspects where touch doesn't make sense, like maybe the deck controls are too small physically on the Switch, but maybe on the OLED Switch they're bigger. But let's say they're too small, right? Like, the Joy-Con has the same face buttons on both sides, so you can do a combo of touch plus face button, and it would be fine regardless of which hand the person is, like dominant hand. So it could have worked, but, that aside, coming on my time trying Fuser, I was actually really surprised by how well it works and how fun it can be, just like taking the crowd requests and kind of building your own beats. You definitely could kind of like get in a groove and a zone when things are like clicking right. It's definitely not the same level of pick up and play as Guitar Hero or Rock Band, but if you're willing to learn the systems and the kind of layers and you just like music, there's over 100 songs in this. There's DLC with like 30 more. I think there's more coming. It's everything from somewhat older to like, like The Weeknd's Blinding Lights is in there to some more other modern stuff. So it's a full mix. And it is a fun time. It's currently $40. Admittedly, I'm not sure if I pulled the trigger at that price because I don't know what there is besides the story mode. Like Battle Online, I don't know if that's like enough. And I think there's a freestyle mode where you could just like mess with beats and there's no challenges, which for me, I'm not that sort of creative person. I want like a reason or a goal or linearity. So, but if they were to drop the price by 10 or $20 in a sale, yeah, it would have my attention. It's a fun experience. There is a demo on the eShop. So if you did miss the game trial, it's something that you have to kind of experience for yourself. I feel like for some people it's going to be really awesome and others it just will not click. But if it clicks for you, it's actually pretty cool. It just isn't as mainstream as Rock Band or Guitar Hero. So that's Fuser. It's definitely, a unique experience. There's nothing quite like it on the Switch. Which I guess, to shift gears a bit, will bring us to our final topic of the episode. Unless you guys had any burning questions about Fuser. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I guess not. It sounds like quite the package.
Somewhat. I mean, in terms of what you can do, yeah. In terms of the amount of content you can do it in, maybe.
Well, I mean, also just like the way.
It's definitely unique.
Especially.
Yeah. It's pretty different than any other rhythm game.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to hear that because like not everything has to be a hit to the licensed music thing. I mean, like we've already talked about on this podcast, like Rhythm Heaven is a fun, unique take on
well, Angel, to be clear, you're DJing 100 real hits, but yeah, it's not. You're manipulating them. It's not like
No, yeah, but it's not. But it's not simply the, the same track thing that we're very
totally,
used to.
And that's what's kind of nice about it, and why I think it's worth taking a look at. If
I mean, if anything, I guess you could say it's a nice take on the
track. Really, yeah. If you've had any interest in any like music game, I would say it's worth your time to at least look at. Like if you ever bat an eye
DJ Hero
at
still
the trailer, like take the time to try it. Yeah. But yeah, to now switch gears a little bit, like I was saying, we got one more topic to cover, and that is Metroid. It's the second entry in the anniversary series in which we kind of just reflect on one of the many, many franchises celebrating an anniversary in 2021. And, with the Switch OLED. What?
Oh, we're doing this? Oh, wow. All right. I didn't really
I told you in advance. Ooh. You even said okay.
Oh,
but no, the reason I was thinking this episode makes sense is because the Switch OLED model comes out in tandem with Metroid Dread, and it even has the colors of Metroid Dread. The black and white model looks straight up like an Emmy. That's EMMI, the bad guys, not the awards. And the neon red and blue isn't too far removed from Samus's new costume. So, if we're going to pick any episode to talk about Metroid, that's kind of a slower one where we have the time to do the anniversary series, might as well do this one and celebrate the 30th anniversary. And Metroid's kind of an interesting one, too, because it's really, in my mind, almost like two separate series. There's like the 2D Metroids, and there's the 3D Metroids. And do you guys even have a preference one over the other? Like, is there one you tend to gravitate more towards?
Not really, because I like entries in both types of Metroids a lot.
What would you say your favorite entry was overall?
But I guess if I had to pick one type of Metroid, I guess I do prefer the first person one. Because I didn't get into Metroid until Metroid Prime / Metroid Fusion, because those came out at the same time. And I distinctly remember being at a Toys R Us, KB Toys, whichever, as a youngin, and seeing Super Metroid on the shelf and being asked what game do you want to get? And I think I got the Tasmanian Devil game instead, which I don't regret, because obviously I still managed to get a copy of Metroid eventually. So if anything, I'm glad I got to play this random game that I otherwise now probably wouldn't have even put a second thought to. But Metroid is still very much in the conscience. Yeah, it's still very much in everybody's mind that's a Nintendo fan. So they also re-release it every console.
Yeah, the old ones. Yeah,
but yeah, Metroid Prime was just, I think that was also the first first person game that I ever really got into. So it was it just hit a lot of points. I don't know, the music. I think partly for that I would probably have the most nostalgia for the Prime series, specifically 1 and 2. 3 I really liked as well, but by then, I don't know, I think there was probably a big enough gap that I think I still prefer 2. I still really love 1. I think I just like the level design of 2 more than 1. But, it makes sense. It's a sequel. They're obviously going to improve on it. And I could say the same thing about part 3. But there was a part of 3, or something about 3, that I remember it feeling a little overly repetitive with the progression. That kind of bogged it down a little bit. Because I remember I had to finish it in 2 periods. I got halfway through. And then I just kind of stopped playing it. And then I had to... Enough time passed that I didn't remember what I was doing and couldn't figure it out, so I restarted. Then I stopped again, and then eventually, I think it was probably in college, that I actually went back and beat it. So, I still ended up loving the game, but yeah, it wasn't the first 2 where I was hooked from the entirety of the game. And then Fusion, I love that game's atmosphere. That one made me excited for Zero Mission, which then got me to try Super Metroid, but I don't know what it is about Super Metroid. I just can't get myself to finish it, even though it's a really short game. I know it's good. I know people laud it as one of the best games of all time, but I don't know. I just don't know what it is about it. I could maybe play an hour or 2 into it, but then I just kind of lose interest. Whereas, I love the remake of Return to Samus. I did play through the original Samus Returns 2. I actually had the Game Boy cartridge. Way after it came out, obviously. But yeah, the original Metroid, I've obviously tried starting it many, many times, but could just never do it. But pretty much everything after Super Metroid that was actually released, I really loved. And yeah, I guess that goes for any of the Metroid games. Oh, and I know Jason loves this one.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I was trying to figure out how to bring that up, but you took care of it. Yes. Don't sleep on Metroid Pinball, people. It is surprisingly great. Yeah.
Yeah, that and Star Force Commando are the only games I remember using the Rumble Pack. But, yeah. Oh man, the music of Metroid Prime is really good. The music of Metroid in general, though they do tend to lean hard on a lot of the main themes, so it is kind of nice when you hear something new. As much as I love the Magmore Carbon's themes, I feel if I have to listen to it, if there's a new lava area and they use that track again, I'm just going to be disappointed. But yeah.
What about you, Kevin? Where's your Metroid journey begin?
Oh boy, where does it begin? It probably begins with Fusion, and then on to Zero Mission, then to Prime 1, Prime 2. Never got to play Prime 3. Oh, actually, where does Hunters show up in there? Because Hunters is in there for sure.
It's is it after? No,
after 2.
I think it's after 2. Yeah, because it came out.
It
came out after. Yeah, it came out after 2 and before 3.
Pinball.
So. Yeah, it came out after Pinball as well. I don't know if Pinball's canon. I hope it is, because that means we might get a sequel one day just because they need to think of it in the broader picture.
I mean, it's a retelling of Metroid Prime
didn't they
1.
spin off some stuff? Like, didn't they do
through all the
something
major
different in
beats.
it? I seem to remember it taking it in a different direction. Maybe not. Maybe
No,
not.
everything was there. You fight the Omega Pirate, you fight Mecha Ridley, you fight Metroid Prime itself
Okay,
at
never
the
mind
end.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all there. Literally just a pinball version. You fight Chozo Ghosts. Like, it's crazy how much they adapted from it. It's like they went above and beyond. It's kind of nuts.
So,
Regardless,
yeah, I was going to say, so Kevin, where were
Hunters,
you?
and then eventually I got around to going back and beating the older Metroid games. No, I love the series. Super excited for Dread. I'm glad that they are finally acknowledging that the series exists, especially considering how long they were silent on Metroid anything.
Yeah.
Since they announced Prime 4.
Yeah, that...
Favorite 2D, probably Fusion. Favorite 3D, I'd probably give it to Hunters, honestly. Just because of the atmosphere and being able to move around and shoot at the same time, unlike the GameCube games.
I thought I was going to be sacrilegious for saying that, but I was going to say Hunters up there as well. I was going to put it really high up there as well, because, like, yeah, I don't know. I think for me, there's just something about Metroid. I think, like, what stuck with me the most was that the experiences really separated themselves from anything else Nintendo was doing at the time. Because, you know, for me, too, Metroid, like I was saying, Metroid Prime and Fusion were my first entries, just like you guys. And, yeah, like, it was just like, you know, they had this deep sci-fi setting. I'm a big sci-fi fan. They had this very narrative-driven experience. And, like, it was interesting because Metroid Prime, and eventually Hunters, I'm getting back to Hunters, it really felt like they were ramping up everything to a level you didn't really see from Nintendo, like, especially in the early 2000s when, like, Halo frenzy was at its peak. Like, here's Nintendo taking on a first-person shooter, or first-person adventure, as they called it at the time. But, like, it worked really well. Like, it was its own unique experience because of the emphasis on exploration. It felt like it was truly a kind of then next-gen type of game because, you know, you had Samus's visor and the effects of her breath and the reflections in it and stuff. And it really just felt unlike anything Nintendo did before. And still, you know, it felt different from what Nintendo's done before, but it was also still unique compared to, like, its contemporaries in the genre. And even Nintendo, you know, refusing to admit it was in the same genre, but kind of matching in their own way what the genre was doing was cool. So then, like, Hunters, it felt like it was just that, like, further, because, you know, like you said, the atmosphere, and you were moving and separately from aiming, which was more like a regular FPS, and then they just went all in and did, like, the online battle arena aspect with the, you know, they had the multiplayer mode. It was one of the first shooters on Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, and with touch controls, no less.
Yeah,
and yeah, it was just
awesome. Or at least, like,
yeah, I mean, honestly, like, you know, to put them in the same breath as all the other sci-fi games that were out at that time, like, no offense to Stylix and Weevil, but, like, their designs maybe were going in a different direction, let's say. But the gameplay, yeah, like, my friend and I in high school loved to play Hunters online so much. It was so much fun. Yeah, so I'm with you, Kevin. Hunters is surprisingly solid.
I wonder if it aged well.
That's what I'm worried about. I really want them to do this.
Graphics aside, I wonder how the gameplay would age.
Good question. I mean, they came close with Federation Force, kind of, but that was more co-op, so we don't really truly know. But it was similar in mechanics, at least. Yeah, I would love for them to do a sequel to Metroid. I think I've said this on the show before, but I would love for them to do a Metroid Prime Hunters, either as like a Switch Online, like multiplayer only thing, or like just remake it in HD or something. But like if the gameplay holds up, I imagine it's gotta hold up at least decently because it was a very like kind of close quarter shooter, relatively. So, you know, there's gotta be room for that. Like you can't really I can't really age poorly, right? I hope, but. Yeah, one thing I do find kind of interesting about Metroid, though, is, and Kevin, you were sort of saying this with how, like, you know, Nintendo kind of didn't do anything with the franchise. It was so weird. Like, it carved out this spot for itself against all of Nintendo's lineup, right? Like, it was kind of its own thing. It really stood out. It wasn't like a Zelda or a Mario or a Kirby or anything. It was a little darker, a little more narrative-driven, a little more moody. But then, like, Nintendo didn't know what to do with that. Like, at one point, Metroid was one of its biggest AAA franchises. Like, it was the flagship game for 2 GameCube holiday seasons. And Metroid Prime Hunters, the first Hunt demo, was packed in with the DS to boost sales of the DS. And even, you know, the Metroid Prime Pinball, like, the fact that that spin-off exists is because the core games were so big and popular. And, you know, it was, for a minute, really wanted Nintendo's big guns. And then in the Wii era, they like ramped up even further in what Metroid represented, like, you know, good and bad. So Metroid Prime 3, ignoring, you know, the repetitive thing you were saying, Angel, like, it was an anchor of the 2007 Wii lineup. It continued doing what Nintendo did best with Metroid, which was like leaning in on some of the staples of a genre they didn't previously have a game in. You know, like now they had voice acting, but they offered still something unique in the motion control. So it was kind of still doing that, like kind of walking that line. Then they tried to make Lightning Strike Twice with Other M. You know, that was them basically trying to modernize 2D Metroid, which, you know, on paper it should have worked. It's a more modern narrative style. It's like it's kind of Metroid Fusion, but modernized. It has better production values. Same exact release period as Corruption, just a few years later. So they were trying to like tit for tat, do the same thing. And obviously that didn't work, and that's fine. But then it felt like Nintendo just kind of froze up with Metroid, like this breadwinner for them, which did admittedly sell less in the Wii era, especially in Other M's case. You know, maybe the Wii audience wasn't quite as locked into that type of game as the GameCube audience was or the GBA audience was. But like, when Nintendo did that with other franchises, you know, they kind of plowed through issues and learned from mistakes. Like Zelda, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks were fun, but Nintendo pretty quickly listened to feedback and reverse course. And A Link Between Worlds on 3DS a few years later was kind of the old school setup again. But yet Metroid, you know, at one point was as important to Nintendo as Zelda or Mario, and it just like, they didn't know what to do with it. It was so weird. Like its legacy is like this weird like peaks and valleys it went on, because they didn't try to like go back to tried and true approaches. You know, a new 2D Metroid, a new Prime, they sort of just chibi roboed it. They're like, well, maybe people want this other experience, like a Four Sword style Metroid as like a B tier release. It doesn't even have to have Samus in it. It's fine. Let's see what happens. That'll patch things up. And like, Federation Force I thought was kind of fun. I will say that forever. I know most people didn't like it. I thought it was actually pretty fun. But what a weird response to like people being like, hey, we want like normal Metroid back. And I'm going, well, what if we go the other way? And that took them 8 years after Other M to do Samus Returns. And that was them going like, oh, look at that. Maybe we'll get traction if we like do the thing that made the series popular. And then they did. And now here we are with Metroid Dread. And it's now back in flagship position. It's back to the GameCube days. It's, you know, the big game of E3, the big launch title for the Switch OLED model, day and date. It's getting not just its own amiibo and collector's editions, but it's spurred Nintendo to reprint the Dark Samus and Ridley amiibos from the Smash Bros. Line too. Those just went up for pre-order unannounced this week. But yeah, it's just like Metroid's now back where it should be, but its legacy is such a weird one to me, to go from like poster child to B-tier spin-off release machine that's like Star Fox-ish, only to end up back as the poster child just by doing the exact thing people kind of always wanted all along. But, you know, whatever it takes to get Samus back in our lives, it's cool. And obviously Metroid Prime 4 is who knows where. But, yeah, it's just Metroid has such a weird legacy. The games are great, though. But what a weird legacy. I guess that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, so with that, this episode's going to come to a close. Unless you guys had any surprise last-second topics, like that game that we can't say on the air that you made up. That was at the end of our timestamp list. That's what I thought. Okay. But yeah, we'll be back on August 1st with Nintendo Impressions and News. I think it's going to include our takes on Pokemon Unite. The game's supposed to be on July, and just going by the calendar, August 1st is no longer July, so it's got to be out by then. But whatever we talk about, be it Pokemon Unite or whatever news may happen, whatever bombshell Nintendo drops because we recorded this early, we'll have all that then. You can make sure you don't miss it by subscribing to us on every podcast app under the sun, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Pandora. We're on YouTube. Random.com is the name. We are everywhere. And you'll want to make sure to subscribe to us on those, and also to follow us on Twitter at Ram Nintendo to make sure you don't miss Random Non-Tendo, the next one of which will be coming up this coming weekend, so still in July. And if I had to guess, I don't know what we're talking about, but I gotta imagine there's going to be quite a few pieces of Marvel media discussed, because there's been multiple Marvel things of late. So who knows what else, but that's my guess, Kevin. And we're probably going to talk about it, huh?
Yeah, probably.
So that and other fun surprises. So yeah, that just about does it. You can follow us individually on Twitter. I'm JSR7. Angel is Wero, WEIRO_O. Kevin is KVN Gomi. And with that, Kevin, sir, the final word, please.
Put Chainsaw Man in Smash.